Hi, I'm Graham Wraith. Welcome to Lights Down, an exploration of what it's like moving into retirement after a life of long, unsocial hours in technical theatre. If you've ever worked those hours yourself, in a career that was more than just a job, I think this one's for you. I'll share my own experience and reflections, not advice. I'm not a life coach or a finance expert, just someone talking their way through it. Each episode, I'll be looking at the personal and emotional side of leaving a career like this and how the practical stuff, including money, weaves through it in my own experience. I hope some of it resonates and that it's worth half an hour of your time. Right, enough overture, let's get the curtain up.
Technicians to stage for preset.
So, I'm Graham, and this is the first episode of this podcast, Lights Down. Lights Down, well, yeah, I'm a theatre technician, so lights down at the end of the show, and it's lights down on my career. I retire at the end of January next year, 2027, after 46 years in the business, I guess, yeah. I started at 19. And so it's been a long time and many long hours. So it's going to be an exploration for me that I'm inviting you to come and share. It's going to be practical. We will talk a bit about money and all that kind of thing, but obviously from my own personal experience, it's possibly not the most important thing as a lot of other people would have you believe, but it is about the change. So coming out of a career that's been a huge part of my life, that's been something that has given me a lot of joy, but also asked of me a lot of my time, which has meant that I've missed some major life events for family and friends. And how does that change? January 27, all of a sudden, at the end of that and the beginning of February, I can lie in the morning. I will get weekends back. In fact, I'll have every day back. I'm used to having days off during the week, but I'm going to have every day off. How's that going to work? How am I going to feel? How am I going to deal with it practically and financially and personally? So that's what we're going to be looking at. And if you're in a job that has the same kind of thing, where your job took your evenings, your weekends, your Christmases, your Easters, family weddings, and gave you something back you're not sure how to name it, how to identify it, well, maybe you're in the right place, and listening to me might help you understand how you might end up retiring. Who knows? Let's find out.
Curtain up on Act 1.
So, maybe I should start by explaining what my job is and the hours it involved and how I got here. Would be a good start, I reckon. Anyway, so how did I get into theatre? Technically, I had a strong technical aptitude and interest, I guess, when I was a kid, younger. Did physics, maths, chemistry, all that stuff at school. Studied for a while electronic engineering at university. But my first experience was after a summer job in a music shop. The manager there was involved in the Edinburgh Playhouse reopening. They were talking late 70s here, quite a while ago. So I got a job ushering there as he was involved in it, and thoroughly enjoyed it. As he put it, how do you fancy getting paid to watch gigs on stage? And I did. I saw Queen, I saw Alex Harvey, and a lot of people like that. So it was good while it lasted. And also I did get to do some technical stuff as well, because they knew I was technically inclined. And my first technical job for theatre was doing follow spot. So that's the spotlight manually operated that follows singers and performers, dancers and whatever. And I still remember to this day, my first pickup of the follow spot was on a kids show, a guy in a lion suit playing a guitar. And yes, I was very nervous, but I got it and I enjoyed it, and it went on from there. I started work a bit on stage with him. I did the famous, perhaps, Elton John concert that happened in the Playhouse, where it was just him, a piano, a rug, and a drinks cabinet, playing to the audience, and it was out on Radio 4th, if I recall correctly, and it was quite a gig. He had that audience in the palm of his hand. Anyway, theatre shuts again, so I end up going to university studying electronic engineering, and I did that for 2 years. And after 2 years, for various reasons, part of it including me not being able to do the math anymore, so I left. I had a temporary job on the buses, and I came to the end of that, and I actually bumped into a friend of mine who I'd known at the Playhouse, who was now back at the Playhouse because it was reopening, and I got a job as a security guard there, on the understanding that when it opened fully, I would go onto the tech team, which I did not long after it opened. I was young, I was green, but I was keen, and did my best, learned on the job basically with a few other young people. A guy called Tim who ended up working with Scottish Ballet, and I still know and I'm friends with to this day. And one of the companies that came in on a regular basis to the Playhouse was Scottish Opera, and got to know those guys pretty well and tried my best to help them out, and must have done a reasonable job, because when they had a position coming up, the lighting guys, electrics team, asked me to apply for the job, which I did, and I got it, and joined Scottish Opera on their touring lighting electrics team for quite a few years, on and off. I did a lot of touring, including a foreign tour, which included Venice and Frankfurt and Mannheim. Absolutely brilliant time with a really nice team, and we had a lot of fun. I did get to a stage where I thought, don't know if I like this theatre lark. It's a lot of long hours, which we'll talk about later. A lot of physical hard work, which we'll also talk about later. And so I decided I was getting out of it for a while, and if you would believe it, I was decided to try a career in life insurance and pensions, and trained up in that and tried my best, and discovered that, hey, this theatre lark, it's not so bad after all. Scottish Opera were playing Oxford, and as luck would have it, I happened to be round about Oxford on a training course for that pensions, I think, at the time. I went to meet them and had a chat, and once again they were looking for somebody, and I said, well, you know what, I quite fancy coming back, and so I did. Back to Scottish Opera, and stayed there till 1994. At which point the Festival Theatre in Edinburgh opened, and I got the job of chief electrician, in charge of a team, full-time team of 2 under me, and a lot of casual crew underneath that, and got that theatre open. That was quite an experience. After a few years, we merged with the Kings at the request of the local council, and I became head of electrics, supervising both venues. We've also built a studio theatre out back of the Festival Theatre, and that's also under my remit, though luckily now I have a technician employed full-time in there to look after it as it gets busier and busier. So here I am, 94, it's now 2026, so 32 years. I'm still here, so I enjoy it. It's a challenge, and but it's coming to an end, and this is the interesting thing that we're going to be talking about. So what does the job involve? Well, it's I got asked once what a typical week was, and then realised I didn't have one, but in my head I do have a typical week, which consists of a Sunday being hopefully a day off, possibly a one night stand. Some show we've just done. Nikita from Strictly Come Dancing, he did a one night stand show yesterday, because this is Monday and I've got a day off because I'm working Saturday. So yeah, Sunday we think it's a day off or a one night stand, or for some shows we normally do run a show for a week in the venues. It might be a Sunday get-in, so the show turning up when it's all its lorries and unloading all the kit for the show, including lights, sound, scenery, props, wardrobe, and we set it all up. More than likely the Monday and Tuesday, that's 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. And Monday is just getting the show ready, getting the lights up, getting the sound working, getting the scenery in and built, and starting to make it look good. Continue on into the Tuesday. If we're lucky, we might get a rehearsal of the show on the Tuesday afternoon, and then the first performance is the Tuesday night normally. And that's kind of the standard setup for the show. Then we do the shows. That's the relatively easy part of it. So Wednesday would normally be probably some notes, because we want to got it quite right. Maybe some detailed stuff needing worked on just to tighten up a bit before the second show on Wednesday. Do the show Wednesday night. If it was the Kings, it would be a matinee as well on the Wednesday. And it's a matinee Thursday in the Festival Theatre, so that's two shows, and on the Friday back to one show. Saturday, two shows, 2:30, 7:30 usually, and then at the end of the second show we need to get that show out, stripped down, packed away, back onto the lorries, so it can travel Saturday night into Sunday, so that it's at the next venue, wherever that might be, Newcastle, Aberdeen, Southampton sometimes, and it needs to be there for 9 o'clock on the Monday morning, so that they can put the show on in the next venue. And amongst all of that, we're supposed to be looking ahead to the other shows coming in, liaising with the companies that are bringing those shows in as to what the requirements are from us, doing timesheets, keeping up with health and safety. So keeps me busy. The complexity of the job has increased over the years, but what we do is basically the same, but now we have more toys to play with. So I'm most interested in lighting, and that means making the show look good, and we do that as best we can. So there's a lot of hours involved, as you can imagine. I do have a schedule coming up for a week in the festival, which is one of our busiest times a year, and that's over 60 hours for the week. So yeah, and over the years, you're working evenings, you're doing shows, you're working weekends, you're working late at night on a Saturday night. Those get-outs can go on till 4, 5, 6 in the morning on the Sunday. Kind of ruins your Sunday as well. So I've lost time with friends, seeing weddings, family events, funerals, all those things, those little events. I don't have any children, but I do know that people in the industry have missed their kids growing up and some of the things that happen. But I love the job. I love being in theatre and doing it. I love the feeling, the sound, the feeling that you get when you've got an audience of 2,000 people standing on their feet at the end of the night because they've had a great time, and I've been part of that. And it plays to my strengths, I guess, and plays to what I like about life, people, and all the different people you meet with the shows coming in. Technically, making things work. I get sometimes against all odds, and all that kind of thing. If you might be in a job that's completely different. Health, I can imagine being a doctor or surgeon, same kind of thing, and many other jobs. Truck drivers, all sorts. There's many jobs out there that I know are not 9 to 5, and that other people like me and other people that I know in the industry that I work in, you'll be the same. You know that you've missed stuff in life, but yet somehow there's something about that job that gives you something back, that's why you do it, and that's why, although you know you've missed those things, you've also feel you've gained something from this career that you've had. So yeah, you maybe don't work in theatre but you work the same sort of hours for the same reasons, and that's maybe where this can help me as I talk through it, and help you as you listen to me sharing my experience.
That's a 20-minute interval, everyone.
So what I'm going to do in all of these podcasts is take a break in the middle of the reminiscing and opinionating and exploring, and let's just go and have something a wee bit lighter and maybe funny. Everybody always asks, when did it go wrong? So yeah, today we'll have a when it went wrong story. Many years ago, while I was at Scottish Opera, they decided to do a production of the musical My Fair Lady. I think to try and get more bums on seats and prove that they could sell tickets. So they did. Now it was a major production of My Fair Lady, and in Act 1, after the Ascot scene, when we go to Freddie singing On the Street Where You Live, there was a huge flying piece that came in, 3-dimensional, with a door in it, the frontage of the street, with a fence in front of the buildings and everything, all flew in manually. And then behind that, there was a scene change from Ascot to a marketplace street scene. And so behind this flat, all the technicians are on stage, changing the scenery around and putting props in place and whatever. And at one point, Freddie, as those of you familiar with the show will know, he knocks on the door and hands in a bunch of flowers. In order to facilitate that, there was a small scenic flat behind the door, probably about 8 foot tall by 5-6 feet wide, just to back the door so that when the door was opened you couldn't see through it. And then once that part of the scene had happened, then the door closes, secured and locked together so that it won't open again, and then the flat behind, the small flat, flies out on the flying system, goes up in the air to allow the last few bits of scenery right close to this huge flat to be set. Unfortunately, during one particular performance, I was out front on the lighting desk in the dress circle, and unfortunately the fly cue was given by stage management, and the flyman went to the wrong rope and pulled out the entire street flat, exposing all the technicians behind. You have never seen technicians move so fast in your life, dropping what they had in roughly the right place and running off stage, while poor Freddie is left singing downstage, still carrying on to a seat where he lives, wondering why something has clearly gone wrong behind him. To be fair to him, he did keep going, and eventually the little black masker flew out, and we went on with the scene. But the looks I was getting from the audience, I was trying desperately to hide behind the lighting desk because it was nothing to do with me. I might have had a grin on my face because of what was happening, but yeah, that was a fairly major disaster. That was not one you could hide from the audience. So that's today's story. There will be others, and some of it will be about people, some of it will be about shows. Because one thing that I have found in my career in theatre is I've made a lot of very good friends through it, and it's an irreverent place to work, and a lot of stuff goes on that won't be even repeatable on this podcast, but hopefully there'll be some that I can share with you that just show the friendship and the fun and the camaraderie that's had in theatre.
Beginners to stage for Act 2.
Okay, time to get back to what this podcast is mainly about. So why do a podcast at all? Why not just retire and head off into the sunset quietly? Well, I've had a little help on coming to terms with the looming retirement, and I think I've realised that it's a major life event that I know I'm not going to be the only one that's struggling a bit with it, not in a bad way, but in coming to terms with it. And so why not share it? Why not work it through with other people listening and hopefully getting something from it that might help them think about things in a more positive way. So let's do it. Yeah, the realisation over the recent months that I'm looking forward to retiring. There's no doubt about that. And in some ways I can't wait. But it is that big change. And once I'd set the date in my head, and it's probably especially when I first had a consequence at work from it. So I had to point out when I got my holiday form, we do April to March. So I got my holiday form for this year and it had my full entitlement on it. And I had to point out that as I was going to be leaving at the end of January, I had less holidays than that. So yeah, that was it. A definite, right, this is happening. And it became almost a physical thing, a presence looming in my future. So less than a year to go, and that sudden realisation of how close it was, I have to admit, I had a bit of time coming to terms with that, my motivation and focus at work. I actually ended up taking online counselling, which was offered through work. Which I had done before at a previous difficult time, and it was actually quite comforting in being told and made to realise that yes, of course, it's a big change, it's seismic. You know that change is coming. You probably haven't thought about it too much, but now it's here, it's real, it's happening, and so of course that occupies your mind, feeds into your work mindset, and makes you look at things from quite a different perspective. It's normal, and it's part of you coming to terms with what's about to change in your life. And also I was encouraged to remember my work ethic and the pride and the passion that's driven me through the years, and I haven't lost that. I still have that. So use that. That's the driving force to keep going at work and realising what you're there for and why you love doing what you're doing and why you want to still do that until pretty much the last day. Also, I lead a very close-knit team, close friends with quite a few of them, and we get on very well together. We do go out together. We have team building days, which are basically us going out and having fun. And I don't want to let them down at all. They've been great. They've supported me for many years, and I'm not about to let them down. But also on top of that, I'm also aware that I need to prepare them for my leaving. I've been there 30 years. I'm almost a blooming institution. So it is going to be a big change for them as well. So I've stepped back a little bit on some areas and been more supervisory, if you like. And letting people take more responsibility for things. So yeah, hopefully I'm doing that. So I guess there's two major changes coming up for me, and that's losing the demands of work's long and social hours, and the not knowing exactly what you'll be doing in 5 weeks' time because it depends on the shows. I'm losing that. I'm losing the fact that I'm gaining freedom, and I've never really had that while I've been working. I'm also losing the focus of a job that I'm passionate about, that I've been doing for years. And so what do I do with that? What do I do after that? Do I try and do something more in that field, or do I just leave it behind and enjoy some other ways of living or things to do? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure yet. After that initial period, I think February will be a very lazy month, enjoying lies in and the not having to do anything. But that's going to wear thin in the end. That's not what I see myself doing in the future. So what do I focus on then? I mean, I have plans to travel. Might even manage to live abroad for a while. The old warm sun on old bones thing. I mean, it's true. Yeah, it works, and I've got people that absolutely recommend it. So, what do I do, and can I afford it? Well, I had an idea I was okay financially. COVID, funnily enough, fed into that, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But I took the time to check with a financial planner, paid the fee, and got the advice. Now, that was part motivated by the hope that my partner would be able to retire early so that she didn't have to wait 5 years and watch me lying in bed every morning while she went to work. And he proposed and showed us the reality of a fairly comfortable retirement financially. And that feeds into the feeling of this huge target date in January, that you know you're going to be financially okay. You're not going to be rich or anything, but you're going to be okay. And I think we're lucky enough to maybe be in the last generation of people that's a given or easily achievable. But knowing that you're going to be financially okay does kind of mean that you've now got time for your brain to think, well, I don't have to worry about that, so let's have a good think about all the other stuff, the change in lifestyle. How am I going to feel about myself and my self-worth? How am I going to feel about life in general and what I do and who I am and how I fill my days? Well, everybody seems to suggest that you can't understand how you had time for work, but still, I haven't experienced that yet. So how do I do that? As I say, I'm fortunate enough to know people in the industry who have already retired from the technical side of theatre, and they all highly recommend it. They say it's absolutely fantastic, you should be doing it as soon as you can. So, I think my journey is going to be positive, but it's still an unknown journey and I haven't mapped it yet. I am going to be walking a new path with not much of, well, I've got a map that I think might be right, but I have no guarantee, and I'm kind of aware that I've got no guarantee. So we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to look at stuff that is both practical in the way that I live my life, emotional in the way that I look at myself and what life means to me and what I mean to life. This is why I think this is for anybody who does a similar job, hours-wise, not in what they actually do, but in what that job demands of them, hours-wise, commitment-wise and passion-wise. And the big change, how much of a big change that makes it when you finally retire.
5 minutes to curtain down. Stand by for calls on stage.
Okay, time to wrap it up, I think. This is going to be my personal podcast, my observations and stories of what's happening as I go through the last few months of work in a demanding job and my transition into being a retired person. And hopefully it'll be something that you find interesting or even helpful. As I say, I'm not giving advice here, I'm just letting you have a sight into my experience and you can take from it what you will. I'm no financial advisor, nor indeed a life coach. So next episode 2, we'll be looking at the call sheet, so the hours that I've worked over the years, the unsocial hours, the effect of that on me, and then how that is going to change so much when I go into retirement. I'll also go a little bit into the financial side of how I plan to finance my retirement. It's not kind of what I thought I would do. As I say, COVID had an influence on that. I'll touch on that. But yeah, it turns out, I think for me, and it was a bit of a revelation, it seems that generally we are encouraged almost to worry about the financial side of things, perhaps more than we should. So I'll touch on that. We'll go into it more detail later on. I'm planning on doing this roughly monthly, so look out middle of August for the next one. I'll try and fit it in between the festival. And in the meantime, it's the show's over. The lights are down, so bye for now. And it's time to switch off. That's been House Lights from Lights Down. If you want to get in touch or find out more about the show, head to lightsdown.co.uk. Thanks for listening.